Hello and welcome to this episode of Let's Talk About by Kangaroo Minds. I'm Vedika and today we have with us Shradha Murarka. Founder of Anandkalika, Shradha is a psychologist with over 25 years of experience, a US certified NLP coach, alongside being a mindfulness therapist. She has worked with individuals, couples, parents, and young people across settings to help them achieve their goals. Her approach to training and therapy is shaped by her belief that every person is unique in their combination of energy, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, which help them to understand themselves and their place in the world. Our conversation with her today is centered around understanding healthy love, boundaries, and relationships. However, before we begin, I would like to put out a trigger warning for our audiences. If at any point during today's conversation, should you find yourself feeling triggered or distressed, we urge you to take a step back and look after yourself. Should you need any additional support resources, you can also find them on our website. And now, without taking much time, let's hear more from her. Welcome to the episode. It's so nice for us to finally be able to do this together.
Thank you so much, Vedika, and I'm so excited about today's episode.
Likewise, I know the conversation we're going to have and some of the things that we'll talk about are something which is it affects everybody in their lives in some way or the other. And I think we're going to learn a lot from you and your experiences. So, really looking forward to speaking. To begin today, I would like to ask you that, we live in a world where a lot of times love and relationships are really mistaken to be like chemistry, attraction, or people look at it in terms of, Instagrammable posts, hashtags, or those big Instagram worthy proposals. But in your words, how would you define like healthy love and healthy relationships?
I think the word that you use actually makes a lot of sense because when you talk about chemistry, for me, that reminds me of fires. A set of you in my chemistry lab in school. So for me, chemistry is the spark, Vedika.
Hmm.
It's what gets a relationship going. It's that initial attraction between people, which leads to interest and then to something which is stronger. But love is much more than that. Love is that fire in the fireplace, which is warm, which is steady, which is safe to be around. Sparks all over the place, they're not going to be very safe, right?
Right.
Right? So I think attraction is something that gets you interested,
Hmm.
but love is what keeps you going. And I think healthy love is about feeling seen. It's like you don't need to perform, you don't need to do something extra, and the person sees you for what you are. It is being able to disagree without fearing abandonment, not worrying about saying a no because someone's going to walk away. It's growing with someone. It's not shrinking from someone, trying to hide your true feelings, trying to hide what you really are. So I think if you talk about chemistry and love to me, then love isn't just about the intensity, that's chemistry. Love is about consistency, right? So yeah, I think that's what healthy love is all about for me. In a healthy relationship, it feels calm, it feels steady, not chaotic. You get butterflies in the stomach,
Right.
initially exciting,
Hmm.
but if they just don't go away, that's anxiety.
I completely love the way you've really separated the fact that, love is about being consistent, it's about being seen, it's about being validated, and about just being accepted for who you are. And for a lot of people, I think, like you said, it's that initial spark, that initial attraction where it begins. But how can someone move from that to knowing that, this is a healthy partner for me?
Well, there was something that I came across which I found very interesting and very useful. So, did you know that attraction and intimacy happens at 5 levels? It's not just about seeing somebody and falling for them and then moving on to being intimate. There
Mhm.
typically, ideally, need to be these 5 steps that happen before that. So, the first stage of attraction, according to this, is sensual attraction.
Mhm.
Where you like the way someone looks, you like the way they sound, you like the way they talk, you like the way they feel, you like the way they smell, right? Now, this is where we just slide into the deep end.
Hmm.
And you go, okay, this is love. Because I like this is love. It's not. Because after this comes the second stage, which is emotional attraction
Mhm.
or emotional intimacy. This is where you're comfortable sharing your feelings with somebody. You feel safe around them. You can tell them what exactly is happening with you or has happened with you.
Mhm.
Then comes your third stage, which is intellectual intimacy. This is where you're sharing ideas. This is where you know you're on the same frequency. This is where you can discuss ideologies, politics, everything without feeling that you will be dismissed or you'll be put down or that you will offend the other person. So, first is the sensual intimacy, then comes your emotional intimacy, then comes your intellectual intimacy, then comes your spiritual intimacy. I know I'm not talking about the religious stuff over here, but this is where you're discussing your values, your morals, your beliefs surrounding whatever you do. These are the ethics that you live by, all of these things. And then comes the sexual intimacy.
Mhm.
You follow these five stages, and I'm sure you will have figured out whether you're in love or not.
Right. And moving from just the stages that you described, I think a lot of times people don't know in terms of, is a relationship healthy or not? And if we just simply look at that, let's say in terms of, early red flags and early green flags, like what would you say some of them are? Because we also live in a world where, because of, Bollywood and the portrayals of masculinity and things that we are shown, a lot of these red flags, either they get very normalized or they get very romanticized as well.
Absolutely. And I think you've said it so well. See, we live in an age where the red flags have all been romanticized,
Hmm.
right? So this is where we are seeing movies like maybe Kabir Singh, or we are watching Animal, we are watching Ranjana, we are watching 50 Shades of Grey, we are watching Twilight, where stalking is equal to romance, where jealousy is equal to passion, where possessiveness becomes devotion, where not taking a no is perseverance, right? And all this seems very exciting. So, in comparison, when we come to the green flags, they very often seem very boring because they are so underrated. I like. I think for a healthy relationship, when you have a partner who is able to listen to you without immediately trying to fix you or without trying to dismiss you, I think that's a huge red flag. Don't you think so? People's words and actions match. Very difficult, I know, but when somebody respects your no without sulking, without trying to push you, or somebody who takes accountability instead of getting defensive,
Hmm.
well, you find someone like that, you better not let him go. Yeah, because these are the things which are a huge green flag. It's finding somebody who's able to sit with you through a conflict, through an argument, without calling you names, without judging you, or without disappearing on you. Right? So these for me are the green flags.
So, like you said, even just being able to sit with discomfort and handle conflict, and I think we'll talk about that later as well, is so important, with people because it's very easy to break things, but to really sustain,
Absolutely.
to really mend, to really grow is something which I think we don't see enough of these days, right? And do you feel somewhere, especially for young people, like, those kind of messages are coming through, whether it's from social media, whether it's from cinema, whether it's just, the kind of content that they're consuming?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You see it all the time, right? Whether it's movies, whether it's reels. Yes, not only highlighting or not only romanticizing the red flags, I think another thing that we are falling prey to is labels. It's become so common to hear words like gaslighting, like stonewalling, like being narcissistic, right? Now, these are important concepts, no doubt about it. But when you use them so loosely, somebody is asking you for space to work through what they're feeling, and you can call it gaslighting. You can call it stonewalling. Somebody is being a little defensive, they need to be talked out with. You turn it into gaslighting.
Mm.
It's so easy to throw these words around. And the problem with that is it takes away from their true meaning. Also, it kind of, relationships are never going to be easy. Relationships will have conflicts, relationship will have disagreements, and you will have work through them. So sometimes these words are used as excuses. They are used as justifications for not working on the relationship, which I find very difficult. I am working through so many couples where I keep telling them to change the words in their head. So instead of saying that my partner is narcissistic, because hey, then you're going to react to him like that. You can say he's being self-centered here,
Mm.
right? Or instead of saying my partner always stonewalls me, you can say that my partner doesn't answer me immediately. And there's a huge difference. You're from the field, so you know what I'm talking about, right?
I'm glad you spoke about it because I was going to ask you that, we so often see terms misused, terms thrown around,
Oh,
how e-
absolutely.
and just how easily we pathologize people or just common daily behaviors as well, right?
Absolutely. So when you keep listening to stuff like this, no, every conflict becomes toxic. Every partner who is asking for his needs, who's talking to you about his needs, becomes narcissistic. Every uncomfortable feeling becomes gaslighting, right? So what that does for me is it stops you from exploring the relationship further. It stops you from working on that difficult time together. And instead you get a reason to just break away and disconnect.
Right.
So that is one thing I think that happens. The second thing I think is the opposite of this, the exact opposite of this, which is the expectations. The kind of expectations that we have from partners today, oh my God. Esther Perel, the relationship coach, and even Shah Rukh Khan India Zindagi hinted
Mhm.
at this by saying that love today is expected to give you what an entire village used to earlier, right? And this is something that you will see across media. This perfect partner is, yeah,
And I think you're right. That puts so much pressure onto one person, onto one relationship as well,
absolutely.
right? But before I move on to asking you other things, I think one word which is again recently being misused, misconstrued a lot, and in a relationship context is the term trauma bond. A lot of people don't realize what trauma bonds or trauma bonding really means in its essence. So, if you want to talk a little bit about that and how that's different from love.
If you're constantly obsessing over somebody, now, a lot of this will also feel like the initial stages of a healthy relationship. And that's fine as long as you understand the initial part of it, right? Like the butterflies in the tummy in the beginning stage is absolutely good. But if you're constantly, over a period of time, is you're constantly obsessing about your partner, where he is, what he's doing, how is he, or if you are overly dependent on your partner, emotionally, for time, for space, all of it, if you're too dependent on your partner, if the highs with the partner are like extreme highs and the lows are extreme lows, if if your relationship constantly looks like a drama, it probably is a trauma bond.
Right.
Love should feel safe.
Hmm.
Love should be where you have a lot of choices. So if your partner is busy today, you'll be okay with it. You'll be fine calling up a friend, meeting him or her. You'll be fine doing something by yourself. But if you need your partner for everything, that's a trauma. Wanting him for everything, yes. Needing him for everything is a trauma. Is this making sense?
Yeah, I think that should really help a lot of people as well to, be able to distinguish between those two concepts.
I think if I had to give you two words, then
Hmm.
trauma bond would be drama
Hmm.
and healthy love would be stability.
Hmm.
Right?
And if we spoke about, healthy relationships, for you, what are really the elements that make up a healthy relationship?
Like I said, what for me it keeps boiling down to is feeling safe with somebody, feeling stable around somebody, feeling you can say something. The other person might not like it,
Mhm.
but he will not walk away, he will not disappear. Uh, Feeling that this bond is out of this joy of connection and not out of a fear of losing someone.
Right.
I think it's healthy love.
And you spoke a little bit about safety and stability in terms of, relationships. So can you tell us a little bit more of, in day-to-day practice or in our day-to-day relationships, what does that really look like?
It looks very unglamorous. Yeah, but it is very, very powerful. It, for me, is when your partner doesn't pressure you
Mhm.
for emotional access. It is when they don't mock your sensitivities, when they don't make fun of you, when they know that you don't like it. It's when you can tell them anything without the fear of them weaponizing it later. For me, it is when your partner can give you space when you need it without expecting you to pay for it. I'm doing this for you right now, or I did that for you, and now you can do this. Doesn't happen in a healthy relationship. I hear a lot of this thing about relationships are about 50-50. Excuse me, who defines the 50-50?
Mhm.
Relationships are not about 50-50. Relationships are about everything. So today you could be an 80, your partner could be 20. Tomorrow you would be a 40, he would be a 60. And you keep carrying that load knowing that the other person will be doing the same too when you are low. I think that's a healthy relationship for me, right?
I think
So
that,
it is, yeah.
sorry, go on.
I was just saying, I was just, kind of wrapping it up by saying that it is when you know you won't be punished, you won't be minimized, your feelings, your words won't be weaponized. It is when you know that you can stand up, you can say, you can share whatever you're feeling without the fear of abandonment. I think that's what a healthy relationship should look like.
We'll come back to the fear of abandonment, when we probably talk more
Mm.
about attachment styles as well. But I think, what you said about feeling safe enough to share without having that fear of being dismissed or being invalidated or, being told that you are being too needy or too clingy or
Clingy.
too
Yes,
much. I think for a lot of people, that just that understanding that you can exist, you can have your own opinions, you can share your own feelings without also being shamed or judged for the way you feel.
absolutely. Absolutely. that's the only way that you can have an honest relationship, right? Otherwise, you will be forever hiding your feelings. You will forever be downplaying yourself from the fear that somebody is going to judge you for it.
That's really true. And just moving from, all of this in terms of emotional safety, I think the other aspect is having boundaries in relationships. And, why do you feel that they're necessary? And also, why do you feel people really struggle with their boundaries? Because a lot of times, if you ask, individuals, they'll be like, either they struggle to set them or they struggle to communicate them, because either with a sense of fear of conflict or just feeling guilty that, how can I, this is my partner, how can I have a boundary, or how can I be like, this is not okay? So what would, you really have to say around boundaries?
See, I think boundaries is we actually have a very we understand boundaries in a very weird sense. Okay, we think boundaries is about keeping people out, whereas it is actually about letting people in safely, where they are aware, where they know what is it that works for you and what doesn't. So boundaries are literally how you teach people to love you. Now, communicating them feels scary. Absolutely. Why do you think that is, Vedika?
I think there's so much fear of being misunderstood, but also, like you said, right, that our notion of boundaries is that a boundary is a fence, which is like a wall, fence, wall, whatever you want to call it, which is just to keep people out of your space. We don't see it as the way you described that, it just allows people safety, it just allows people to know what your needs are as well. So, and also, we've always been told it's selfish to talk about me, my
Perfect.
needs, this is what I want.
Excuse me. So, communicating your boundaries feels scary when we've been told, or when our memories, when our nervous system, when our conditioning connects boundaries with rejection.
Mm.
So, we've been told that love is sacrifice. Or there have been times when saying no led to withdrawal or led to punishment. Or we fear conflict more than we fear betraying ourselves. Right? So this is the problem when it comes to communicating boundaries. Unless we are able to understand all of this better, we will all keep doing the same thing. And we've all done it. Right? So I think the reframe that's needed here, the change in thinking that is needed over here is that boundaries don't push people away. Boundaries just filter those away who cannot respect you, or those who don't understand you, or those who benefit by you not having boundaries.
Mhm. You just shared with us about, how boundaries and not having boundaries, who are the people who benefit from that. But can you share a little bit more on, what role do those boundaries play in keeping relationships healthy? And what does really respecting boundaries look like? Because a lot of times it's the little things, it's not always big
Absolutely.
action. So what?
Absolutely. Vedika, again, working with my clients, something that I've learned is that uh, most couples are made of good people. Okay? These are people who want to give their partners what they want, who want to give their partners what they need. But most of the time, they don't understand that. They don't know. And the reason why they don't know is because the partner is not communicating them. So, in fact, instead of it being a selfish act, it is actually an act which brings the two of you together. It helps you understand each other better. If you don't call boundary a boundary, you can also call it your need. You
Mm.
can call it your want, and you can just communicate it that way. Right? So, the need for healthy boundaries is that it allows you to feel safe and it helps your partner understand what makes you feel unsafe. So he doesn't go around pushing you, poking you, or prodding you in the wrong way. Is this making sense?
Yeah, I think that's really helpful, as a way to really understand and even reframe the way we communicate or think about our boundaries.
Right? Now, communicating them is very easy actually, as long as you understand them.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, first thing is knowing what your boundary is,
Hmm.
becoming aware of that. Second is understanding the way that boundary helps you. So, a lot of the time, initially at least, when I work with my clients and I ask them to write their boundaries, they can come up with anything and everything, which is the purpose of it.
Hmm.
And then we sit and figure it out. So, see, another thing that's happening because of the media is that we are getting a list of everything, right? You have 10 reasons for this, and you have 10 needs of this, and 10 ways of this, and 10 of everything. It doesn't work that way.
Hmm.
Each one of us is unique. Each one of us has gone through, has had different experiences, and each one of us will have very different boundaries, right? So, first thing, understanding our own boundaries, what they're doing for us. How are they protecting us? How are they keeping us safe? How are they helping us explore? Second, figuring out, are they really helping us? You don't want to be saying a no for everything.
Hmm.
You don't want to create a wall everywhere, right? So this is about understanding how exactly does this boundary help you? Because when you communicate it, then you do it with a lot more conviction. And contrary to popular belief, you don't have to write paragraphs while explaining your boundaries. No over explaining, no over apologizing, just
Hmm.
a calm, neutral tone to say what is and what is not comfortable for you. A no can be a complete sentence. A I am not comfortable with this is a complete sentence. Of course, you need to be very clear what it is doing for you. So I think this whole thing about boundaries, we've just complicated it a lot in our heads. We've kind of made it a villain. It's not. It's, I'm sorry, with all due respect to the policeman over there, it is like a policeman.
I think also somewhere coming back to the notions we've been taught or what we've seen in movies and things, we've been told, right, that a no is not a no is a yes. So we don't understand that, how to uphold other people's boundaries or how to respect people's boundaries. We feel like, these are negotiable things when that's not how we need to look at them, right?
And like we just discussed, Vedika, I think a big culprit in this are movies, are reels, where it is seen as an act of devotion if you keep uh, pushing a person even after they say no. That is how true love happens. No, it doesn't. I'm sorry, that's harassment. Right? And this again, so there needs to be a lot of awareness about this. But yes, a no is a period.
And I think just understanding that, just respecting that, no matter how big or small the thing is for which someone has said no, is such a great way to demonstrate that you are respectful and mindful of other people's
Absolutely.
boundaries.
It's the absolute complete act of respect for me. Uh, you are asking someone to drink and they say a no.
Mm.
Just take it as a no. Oh, you must try. You have never. How can you not? This is the no. It's a no. Somebody doesn't want to step out with you. It's a no. Somebody doesn't want to respond to you. It's a no. Yes, it's very sad. It's very hurtful in the moment. It's very painful to accept that, but no, it's a no.
I think the other thing after boundaries comes to really communication, conflict, and sort of sitting with discomfort in relationships. Again, something we do struggle with. We're not really taught how to handle discomfort, how to handle hard conversations, how to handle conflict. And often I think a lot of that issue comes from just not being able to communicate.
Absolutely.
So,
Uh, Most relationships, of course, I deal with a skewed population, so my statistics are going to be very skewed. Um, but I think not, because a lot of people face issues and they don't want to take help for it. But this is again saying that couples love each other. They want to be there for each other. They want to give their partners what they want, but they don't understand what it is. They don't understand the motive. They don't understand where their partners are coming from. Why do you think that is there?
I think we don't have, I don't think we've been taught empathy. Like we can sympathize with people, but we don't really know how to put ourselves in another person's shoes. And even if we do, or if we say we do, we're still looking at it from our own lens. We're not really seeing it from the other person's lens.
True that. And along with that comes communication.
Hmm.
Either we do not communicate because we see it as not loving enough, as unloving, as being unloved. Right? When you love somebody, you just have to be okay with whatever they say. You cannot say your side of it. Not really. Because eventually that will lead to a lot of resentment. That leads to a lot of, that leads to feeling tired all the time. That leads to turning the other person into a villain in your head, which is not fair on the other person because he doesn't know your side of the story. So, first thing, communicating, no matter how difficult it is for you to be able to say that, because hey, if you don't say, the other person won't understand. So, first thing, I think communication has to be understood as letting your partner understand you instead of seeing it as being selfish or being very self centered, being narcissistic. Right? So, just say what you need and help your partner understand that if he is not able to or if she is not able to. Second thing is conflicts, which you can't avoid. I'm sorry, the best of relationships will have them. So, not turning conflicts into villains either, accepting that they will happen because you're two very different people coming from very different backgrounds, with very different experiences, with very different parenting, with very different personality styles. So, conflicts are absolutely going to be there.
Hmm.
I think one of the biggest concepts that my clients grasp during our sessions, their biggest takeaways is that conflicts are not bad. Because usually for most people, if there is a conflict, it means a relationship is unhealthy. According to me, if you do not have conflicts, that means your relationships are unhealthy because there's no way that conflicts are not happening. It's just that you're not sharing them. It's just that you're not discussing, right? So communication is never a problem. But yes, how you communicate could be a problem. Your tone, the words that you choose, the time and the place, if you're mindful of them, then I don't think communicating it is a problem at all. Empathy next comes next because that is what helps you understand what the other person is going through. So another very big key factor. And I think that the third thing is usually most of us have not had very good role models when it came to uh, relationships and conflict resolution in relationships. It's a sad reality, but there. So most people associate conflicts with fights, with heated arguments, shouting and yelling, and that which the whole of it is very unpleasant. And I have to keep asking them that why they feel that conflicts can only be resolved through a fight. Conflicts can also be discussed, where you are approaching it as a problem that needs to be solved, where you want to understand what the other person is saying, where you are helping them understand what you are saying, where you come to a win-win solution for both of you. Or at the worst, you agree to decide. There can be arguments where it is a little heated, where both of you are trying to prove your own point. Or it can be a fight where you are shouting, where you are yelling, where you're pushing each other's buttons, right? The choice is yours. So the conflict doesn't decide that it will be a fight, you decide. And I think if you can figure that out, if you understand what the outcome needs to be, you will decide how they need to be resolved.
I think that's a very interesting perspective on conflicts, especially because, again, conflicts are something we've always been told are bad. Like, avoid getting into a fight, avoid getting into conflict. It's not healthy. It's not, you can't be fighting, screaming, shouting. But then that's also our perception of solving a conflict is that,
Exactly.
there's going to be screaming, shouting, or if you go cinema style, throwing objects at each other or even walking out, right? Like that is the perception that how a conflict usually ends. It doesn't end with two people who can either come to an amicable solution or may agree to disagree. That's not really what we see conflict as.
So I think instead of seeing conflict, like I said, instead of seeing conflict as unhealthy, as seeing conflicts as bad, we need to understand that conflicts are actually the healthiest of things to have in a relationship because they show how confident you are in your relationship. To be able to have those difficult conversations, to be able to pull up something that you're uncomfortable about, that you can discuss something that you know your partner is uncomfortable about.
And also, I think, do you feel that individuals and their communication style plays a role in how they resolve conflict? Because there could be one person who is very expressive and one person who may prefer not to talk about issues or who becomes very defensive when it comes to solving conflict or who may choose to bring up, everybody and everything except their role in that problem.
Vedika, I have a template for this. Okay. So my clients begin a difficult conversation with, I feel.
Hmm.
See, typically it is, you do this, you make me,
Hmm.
I have to. So it's where you're constantly pushing everything on the other person. I think a healthy way of working through a conflict is taking responsibility for what you're feeling. The person might be saying whatever he is saying or whatever she is saying. It is your choice to react with anger. It is your choice to react with tears. It could be your choice to just laugh through it. It could be your choice to turn it into a joke. It is your choice to be defensive. So if we understand that our feelings, our reactions are our choice, I think half the battle is won over there. So instead of saying you do this, saying I feel this when this happens is a more neutral way of approaching things. And this also gives the other person the space to say what he wants to. Right? So I feel when this happens, so you state whatever it is that has happened. And it would really help me if you could, where you can also help the person explore what he can do to make you feel better. This is also, like you said, in an argument, everything that has happened over the 30 odd years gets pulled up, or the 3 odd years gets pulled up, or the 3 months gets pulled up. This also contains it to this particular incident. Right? So there is something that the partner can do about it. Look, what are you going to do over something that happened 8 years ago? But if it is something that's in the now, your partner can do something about it. So I think this is something that really helps in difficult conversations when you can do this. Coming back to what you were asking, that typically when a person behaves a certain way or responds a certain way, we also call this attachment styles, right? And typically there are four kinds of attachment styles. So you have an anxious attachment style. Now, this is typically the partner who cannot wait, who needs a resolution right now. It's like, now, talk about it right now. They are not comfortable discussing it later. The exact opposite of this is the avoidant partner. Somebody who's not comfortable discussing, who's not comfortable having that talk, who will usually either walk away or will stonewall. Then you have somebody who's in between. So we call them the ambivalent. So sometimes they can be anxious, sometimes they can be avoided. And the last one is the secure one. So in a conflict, an anxious partner will be, we have to discuss this right now. What are we going to do about it right now? The avoidant person would probably be, I can't talk about this right. Let's talk about it later. Or just walk away from there. Or even if he's in the same space, he's not answering you. A secure partner would say, hey, can we hold this? Let's talk about it when we are both calm. Do you think we are in the right space of mind to talk about this? Are we in the right headspace?
Right.
This would be somebody who would diffuse the tension in the now
Mm.
and then talk about it again.
Right.
Now, I have also seen that a secure partner with one of these attachment style partner can also turn into the opposite. So typically, if you have an anxious partner, a secure partner also gets avoidant, right? Because there's so much of insistence on let's do it right now. Or a secure partner with an avoidant partner can get anxious because they are never having those conversations. There's never any conclusion. There's never any solution. So yes, the whole thing has this, what should I say, the bad effect, the side effect. But the good news, these are not permanent, right? So with awareness, when you're working on it, you can definitely shift them. So yes, this matters a lot when it comes to conflict resolution. And I think at the end of the day, Vedika, how healthy your relationship reflects how self-aware you are.
I will come to self-awareness and self-love to a little later, but because you touched upon attachment styles, I just want to ask you a little bit more. Like, we know these different styles of attachment. You spoke about how they show up in conflict, but our attachment styles also show up in our day-to-day sort of functioning within our relationships. So do you want to tell us a little bit more on, what those different attachment styles really start looking like in adult relationships?
A partner who's constantly messaging you, where are you? You're 2 minutes late. I've been waiting for you since forever. Um, who wants to know every single detail of your life? Who wants to know when you spoke to whom, why, how, where? What do you think that partner is?
But is that necessarily the anxious attachment style, or is an anxious attachment style more about someone who's very clingy, very needy, a lot of fear of abandonment? So, do you think that's where it's coming from?
Absolutely. The reason is insecurity. In both the cases, it's a fear. It's a fear. Whether we talk about anxious style or avoidance style, in both of them, it's about fear of losing the other person, fear of being abandoned, right? The first person is demonstrating it by tying themselves very tightly with their partner. So that's the clingy, the dependence, the neediness coming. And the avoidant person is trying very hard not to become dependent on this person, is trying very hard not to let this person get too close, right? So the avoidant person might appear very cold. An avoidant partner might seem to be very unresponsive. Their response might feel too flat,
Mm, mm.
right? This is how it shows up in normal conversations. But you're absolutely right. All of this comes from this fear of either rejection or abandonment.
And you spoke about role modeling, right? Like for how a lot of people have seen conflicts pan out in things. And there's a lot of conversation around how our early childhood experiences, let's say whether it's childhood trauma or if it's lack of emotional security, inconsistent parenting, toxic parenting, or growing up in dysfunction.
Hmm?
Do you feel like those sort of experiences also have an impact on the way people understand love, the way they understand relationships?
Uh, we keep talking about falling in love. We don't fall in love. We recognize love. So what that translate into is if love while you've been growing up, if love was a lot about obedience, don't answer back, don't talk back, then that is what love will look now. If love has been walking on eggshells around people, then anxiety feels calm. If love earlier has been um, being overprotected, being over pampered, then that is what love looks like now. And for most people, this is something they're not aware of, right? They've grown up with this and they've normalized all of it. So, as grown ups, they will tend to choose partners with whom they can continue to do what has been happening. So, love is not about what it should be, but love is usually about what they recognize, what has been. And if somebody has grown up with these patterns, it's going to be very difficult to change them, right? Because even if you are aware of them, see, your nervous system associates familiarity with comfort, it associates change with danger. Comfort zones. Vedika, are comfort zones comfortable? Comfort zones are not comfort zones, they're just familiar zones. Okay? If you really look at it, comfort zones are not comfortable because there's no growth that happens in them. There's just boredom, there's just routine, there's just ennui. There's no change happening, there's no growth happening. Because for all of that, you need to do something different. And that is a huge leap. That is scary because your mind doesn't know what will happen if you let go of this. And it's the same thing that is true for unhealthy patterns, unhealthy ways of being in love, right? Because A, you don't know any different. B, you don't know whether it's possible for you or not. You don't know whether that will happen or not. So they don't want to take a chance, right? So when you grow up with that kind of conditioning, it's very difficult to step out of. And another thing about this, and this is something very interesting that I got to know recently. So your unhealthy relationships trigger dopamine and trigger cortisol,
Hmm.
which is like a which is like caffeine for the brain. It's a high. It's exciting. Okay. Healthy relationships release oxytocin, which is bonding, which is connection, which is calm, which is very boring, right? So, at first, healthy patterns can actually feel boring if your system is used to chaos. But again, awareness, that's the only way that you can work through them.
I think that's also such an interesting, neurological biochemistry
Is
understanding
it?
towards why people end up repeating certain unhealthy patterns and why a lot of times that chaos, even like, even if it stems from a childhood of dysfunction, where, discomfort is what has been familiar for people, but that really becomes the norm. Like, why do they end up choosing chaos over and over again? Is because, like you said, somewhere it's the brain chemistry that comes into play.
It's 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 the brain chemistry and it's the associations that you've made, right?
Mm.
So this is what is normal because this is what you have experienced so far. And if this is normal, then that is abnormal.
And one of the things that you associate with, whether it's dysfunction or whether it's growing up with difficulties, or around toxicity, not to use the word lightly, but is that it tends to take a toll on people's self-image, self-worth, their self-esteem as well, right? So, do you feel somewhere that an individual's self-worth or their self-esteem really impacts the kind of partners that they choose for themselves?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But before I go there, I want to start with this word self-love.
Hmm.
Vedika, what according to you is self-love?
That was going to be my next question, was to you about talking about that whole notion around, you can't love somebody else if you don't love yourself. And, if you're working on self-love, can you be in a healthy relationship? And I'm sure we'll come to it now that we've touched upon self-love. But I think if you ask me, I think self-love is the way you kind of accept yourself for who you are and the kind of space that you are able to hold for yourself, for your feelings, without really guilt tripping yourself for how you feel. But self love can often, a lot of times, people just use the word narcissism for self love, like, oh, they're so narcissistic, when it could just be them, just doing the bare minimum for themselves. They would be like, this is my way of showing love to myself, but come across as narcissism
So,
sometimes to other people.
so true. Self-love these days with so many people. I've heard this, and I am like, how we can bastardize words, right? So self-love, according to a lot of people out there, especially the younger generations, is all about self-pampering. It is about self-indulgence. It's all about self-pity,
Hmm.
right? And I think self-love is all about self-awareness. It's about self-discipline. It is about self-growth. It is about self-respect. So nothing wrong about pampering, not wrong about indulging at all. So let's say cheating on your diet on a cheat day is great, is self-love. If you're first of all on that diet,
Hmm.
otherwise you're just cheating yourself, right? And so understanding self-love in this sense, that it is about understanding yourself. It is understanding your needs. It's also about prioritizing them. If you're not self-aware, if you don't know what your needs are, if you don't think it's all right for you to have needs, if you can't accept them, how do you think that relationship will look like? Completely lopsided, right?
Right.
It's going to be like a seesaw tilted totally on one end because both the people are sitting on this side.
Hmm.
What do you think would be the end of this kind of a relationship?
I think a lot of chaos, right? Like, because the minute one person tries to advocate for themselves, the other, it's not familiar, because you've never advocated for
Absolutely.
yourself. You can't manage someone else advocating for themselves.
Absolutely. So, coming back to your question, unless you know yourself, you won't know what your boundaries are.
Hmm.
And you won't respect yourself enough to uphold them. You're just going to make yourself miserable. That is just going to be trauma bonding. That's not what a healthy relationship is. See, relationships can make you feel loved, but they cannot replace self love. So, yes, we do need to begin from loving ourselves before we love somebody else. And I think another thing that feeds into this notion is this thing that, we are incomplete without a partner. We are incomplete by ourselves. It is a marriage that completes you or a relationship that completes you. I think that's so sad because the picture that comes to my mind is then I'm a person who needs a crutch and my partner is going to be that crutch. How horrible for him. And he's coming to me with the same expectations. How horrible for me. So, for me, what a healthy relationship looks like is I'm complete. I can meet my needs, my emotional needs, my social needs, my financial needs, my personal needs. Oh, I can take care of them all. And so can you. And I have so much more, and you have so much more that we would like to share it with each other. This comes from a space of abundance. The earlier notion, it comes from a space of lack. Right? So if I'm going to be incomplete without this other person, then I'm going to be constantly dependent on this other person and vice versa. Now you tell me, is this a healthy relationship or trauma bonding?
But then, don't you feel that the whole notion of marriages in society is very based on this lacking that you will not be complete till you find somebody, till you marry somebody, till you settle down with another person?
And that is why I'm doing so well in my practice. Right? Uh, this whole notion of you have to give up your life, you have to give up your friends, your hobbies, your interests, your families just for each other. See, there's going to be a lot of overlap. Otherwise, what's the point of a relationship if you're going to be both separate about everything? Like I said, I have enough of all this and I have more that I would like to share with you. It is about making each other a priority, yes, but it's not about letting go of everything else in your life. Because when you do that, then you're truly dependent on each other for everything, and that doesn't help. That is about your partner being in a bad place and you falling right there in with him instead of helping him come out by being stronger, by being in a better space, and vice versa. So when I hear my client say that, oh, but she has all these things going for her, oh, good for her, and you better do the same. I had a client who asked me, who's running a very successful business of her own. And she's like, I'm going to get married soon, and my partner wants me to give up my business and join him in his business. What do you think? I asked her, what do you think? She said, it sounds good, it sounds very romantic, but I don't think so because that work won't fulfill me. I'm like, you have your answer. Because eventually you do that, you're going to blame your partner the whole, and that's not going to be great for your relationship. Okay? So codependency is one thing, sharing is another thing altogether. Sharing comes freely, dependency comes from have to. There's no other option, right? So, yeah.
But like you spoke about, it's not unhealthy to be somewhat dependent on the person that you're with. But there's such a fine line between dependence and it becoming codependency.
I think a very easy way to answer this is asking yourself, do I need my partner or do I want my partner? And we've been told needing is good. And I'm telling you, wanting is good. Because wanting is voluntary. It is because you enjoy this person, you enjoy the time that you spend with him, you enjoy the company that you want him there. Need is something which is dark. Need is something that has to happen. Need is something that is painful. Right? So how can that be healthy? It's obsessive, it's compulsive. And we've been told that is good. I don't know if this is before your times, but the movie Dar, Shah Rukh Khan and Juhi Chawla, where Shah Rukh Khan and Madhuri Dixit, where he's obsessed with her. No, that was Juhi Chawla. This was another movie. So two movies where Shah Rukh Khan played an obsessed lover. Right? We see this and we associate love with that. It's not. Please, it's not.
When we talk about, healing, because we've spoken about self-awareness, we've spoken about self-respect, we've spoken about self-worth, do you feel that relationships can be spaces for healing, or does healing need to happen before someone gets into a relationship?
So it's okay to heal in a relationship. All right. It's not like, oh, you have to be a perfect person before you go and have a relationship. But self-awareness needs to be there. Right? A healthy relationship can be a very healing space. A supportive partner can help you heal. But if you are not aware of it, then you're going to drag the poor person down with you. You will break him as much as you've been broken. And that doesn't help anybody. Now, what that translate in a day-to-day scenario would be if you are constantly having the same kind of arguments, if you're constantly repeating the same unpleasant patterns, that is telling you a lot about yourself, about your partner, right? So relationships don't create conflicts. Relationships only reveal them. It's your work to work on them after that. So yes, you can get into a relationship anytime, but yes, you need to have a lot of self-awareness while you're in this relationship.
I think you're right, because if someone, even if you get into that space, irrespective of whatever anybody's gone through, but not being aware of it, you will start repeating patterns, you will start probably repeating cycles. Probably that's why
Absolutely.
generational trauma will continue, because there's no one to break the cycle. You're not going to change those habits, unhealthy patterns, chaos.
You're going to be blaming the other person for something that's wrong within you, for something that's coming from you. So you can't fix it over there. You need to fix it here. Otherwise, how does it get fixed? When your partner talks to you about it, you get defensive, you get angry, you get mad, right? But if there is awareness, you can take ownership for it. You can hold yourself accountable for it and then work on it. So, like I said, a person who's had a dysfunctional background, who's not had very healthy relationships in the past, can definitely have a healthy relationship, can definitely get into a relationship and be healthy in it, provided they're self aware and they're willing to work on it. Your partner can't fix anything. I'm sorry.
No, I think that's really true, right? Like, in terms of just recognizing your own role, taking accountability, taking ownership, because it's very easy to blame the other person, to blame everybody around you, be like, this one around you is like this one is like this, and this is adding to the problem. But are you seeing, your role in the conflict?
Mhm. Yeah.
What would be, some deal breakers for you in a relationship? Because I know we've spoken about a lot of things, and to just put things together really for people who've listened to this.
I think it would be what would be a deal breaker for me? Uh, can I talk about a deal maker for me? So for me, a deal maker is being accepted for what I am,
Mm.
is feeling seen, is feeling heard, is feeling understood. I might not be perfect, or I definitely am not perfect. But somebody who can see through that, who can understand that and still be there, I think is the deal maker.
Any thoughts on the deal breaker?
The exact opposite of this.
Mm.
A deal breaker would be somebody who puts me down, would be someone around whom I don't feel safe being, talking. See, there are so many levels of safety, right? There are times when you are around a person and you don't feel comfortable. There are times when you're not comfortable talking about things with somebody. I think for me, all of those things are deal breakers. If I have to work on being loved, then that is not love. That's a trait. I think a healthy relationship. See, so I've heard this from a couple of couples, and I found it very interesting. They go, right from the beginning, he was like this, like this, like this, or she was like this, like this, like this. And I'm like, why did you get into a relationship with this person? Oh, I thought we could change it later. So you're not comfortable with something, you end it there. You do not go in thinking you will change this person. Sorry, you're not going. And I think this is something that most people fall into this trap.
You're right. Like this feeling that I can change, fix, mend another person is not something that, should be the foundation of anybody's
Absolutely.
relationship.
Right? I had a client who was with a partner who was very toxic because there were times when he was absolutely around her, there were times when he was totally emotionally unavailable, and she used to find it very exciting because when he's away, then she's all depressed and dejected, and she's writing him letters in blood. And then he's back with her, and she's over the moon, and she's very high. What does that sound like to you? And she's like, I thought it would all stabilize after we, got into a committed relationship. Why would you think that? So, this idea that people are like broken cups that you can stick together or you can fix or you can patch doesn't happen. They're people, right? So, unless you're comfortable with the person as they are, don't be. Yes, there is always scope for improvement, and that will happen voluntarily by the other person, but you cannot go in there and mend them.
I was gonna say, like you can't be responsible to fix another person. I mean, that onus is on them. Like if they want to change, they will change. And if they don't want to change, you can do whatever, but it's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. I have heard this from clients where the wife was expected to fix her husband's alcoholism. Where she heard it from her husband's mother that we thought once he got married, he'd be okay. How?
That's not
Why?
that's not uncommon, no, to hear these
That's
kind
not
of
uncommon
stories
at all.
where they feel that
Mhm.
marrying people will fix them.
Marrying people, having a baby,
Hmm.
getting a new job, going on a holiday. No,
Yeah,
things don't get fixed, mended, patched, improved unless there is a willingness and there is work. Otherwise, nothing's gonna happen.
I know we've taken a lot of your time and spoken about a lot of things which hopefully will resonate with a lot of people. There might be bits and bobs in here which people might connect with or feel that, this really sounds like something they've experienced or they've thought of at some point. And we're really thankful that you took out this time to join us.
Thank
But
you so much, Nitika.
before
Thank
I
you so
wrap
much.
up,
And it was a joy to be here. Some of those
likewise.
questions really had me thinking.
Likewise. But my last question to you before we close today's conversation is if you could give some advice to somebody who might be watching or listening right now who could be having a hard time with their mental health, what would that be?
I think it would be seek help. Most of us tend to see taking help as a weakness. It's not a weakness. I think it shows a lot of strength because you are aware that there is a problem and you're willing to work on it. It's very difficult when you're in a problem to be aware of what exactly is happening because you're in this situation.
Hmm.
Very often talking about it with someone, whether it is someone whom you trust, a mentor, a friend who you know is sensible and who can help you with this. And if that doesn't work, maybe seeking professional help, but making sure that you seek help, making sure that you work on it and not just succumb to it, right? And I think the same thing goes for a relationship also. This is something that I want to get out there because again, these days we've made it very easy to break a relationship. It's very easy to walk away. And I think it doesn't work that way. Relationships require commitment and heart. So just put it in, figure it out, and do what needs to be done. Because this can be the most enriching, this can be the most empowering thing that happens to you.
Thank you so much for all your time and for sharing so many insights with us. I think, whether it's been our conversation around safety or boundaries or, just distinguishing whether it is attraction, whether this is love, whether, this is just a spark, or, what is a healthy relationship? What are those red flags that often honestly around us get romanticized so much? And I know you gave some examples of movies pre my time, but so that's something we see consistently, right? The only thing that's changed is maybe now we have social media as an added platform, or we may have OTT as an added platform, but somewhere the messaging that young people are getting over generations about relationships, boundaries, conflict has really not changed. And I hope that this conversation is able to change that for them. For anybody who is watching or listening to this, if you are having a hard time with your mental health, please know that there is always help out there and things get better. You don't have to go through this alone. So please talk to someone. Please know that there is always hope. So, on that note, please stay well and stay healthy. Thank you.